Would you trust the fate of the season to a man with 2 injured elbows? In the Bronx, where history weighs on every swing, the Yankees face a quiet yet deeply meaningful decision. Amid a season marked by injuries, twists, and a growing winning streak, one name reemerges as both a promise and a question mark. Giancarlo Stanton, the man of brute strength, a multi-million-dollar contract, and an unstable track record, might be on the verge of returning. But is his comeback a solution, or just the beginning of more questions? He's not just any player. Stanton carries the weight of 35 years, a complex medical history, and still the kind of offensive power that can turn a game around with a single swing. But in 2025, that power has been silent. Tendinitis in both elbows took him out of the season before the first pitch was thrown. And since then, the Yankees have had to learn how to survive and even win without him. But now, with the American summer heating up the fields and reigniting hope in the Bronx, signs are beginning to emerge. In an interview with MLB Network Radio, Brian Cashman broke the silence about Stanton. And what he said didn't go unnoticed. Stanton has been doing everything, the GM stated. He's kind of finished his base running now. He's been hitting for quite a while with that incredible BP machine we have. Words that blend progress with caution. But before we dive into what this really means for present and future of the Yankees, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Here, you get exclusive access to the behind the scenes of the Bronx, and you won't miss a single detail of the daily drama and that is being a Yankees despite fan. Still playing at a high level, Cashman didn't stop represents there. He'll have to do live BP over the next 2 weeks, he explained. And I think he's very close to starting a rehab assignment after that. In other words, the return is near, but the path still has stages. And after such a long absence, rehab will likely take more than just a week. The plan is clear. Bring Stanton back with caution, no rush. After all, his body has already shown it doesn't respond well to pressure. But the expectations inside the organization and among fans are high. Because when Stanton is healthy, even if that's been rare in recent years, he delivers. Last season, despite his limitations, he posted solid numbers. A .233 average, .475 slugging, 27 home runs, and 72 RBIs. That kind of presence at the plate can make a difference in a lineup that's been up and down. But the Yankees know this isn't just a simple reintegration. It's not just about fitting a familiar name back into the roster. It's a delicate move that requires balance between the team's current moment and long-term strategic plans. Because the truth is, the team has been winning, and winning without Stanton. The chemistry is clicking. The rotation is more stable. Young players are stepping up, and a return of this magnitude, both literal and symbolic, could shake the internal structure. Even so, keeping a hitter of Stanton's caliber on the sidelines by choice would be unthinkable. The idea is to test him as a designated hitter once he's ready. That limits his defensive impact and preserves his body while returning his offensive power to the lineup. But that plan won't be executed until after rehab and another medical evaluation. Now, there's a subtle but revealing phrase at the end of the original report. The second half of the Bronx Bombers has included chatter about Stanton being a trade candidate once he returns from injury. It's not a confirmation, not an announcement, but it's enough to raise a yellow flag. Are the Yankees simply waiting for Stanton's return to decide what to do with him? So far, Cashman hasn't talked about trades. No move has been announced. No solid rumors have surfaced beyond light speculation. But the mere fact that this possibility is being floated already shows the fragile moment the franchise is in. Because if Stanton returns strong, he boosts the lineup for the playoff push. But if he comes back sluggish or limited, the question becomes, how much longer is it we're holding on? So, Yankees fans, would you bet on Giancarlo Stanton's recovery? Or do you think the Yankees should start looking at other options as soon as he steps back on the field? Leave your thoughts in the comments. What would you do if you were in Brian Cashman's shoes? But while all eyes are on Giancarlo Stanton's bat, and the promise of an imminent return, something deeper is starting to stir behind the scenes in the Bronx. Because there's a second story being written in silence. A story that doesn't show up in the highlights, but could define the outcome of the entire season. As Stanton revs his engine in rehab and Brian Cashman maintains his confident tone, a more uncomfortable truth grows with each game. The Yankees don't have a reliable rotation. And unlike a designated hitter, a hole in a rotation is like an invisible leak on a battleship, silent but deadly. It all began back in spring training. Gerrit Cole, the ace, the captain of the mound, went down before the season even started. Luis Gil, the young arm once seen as a future of the rotation, simply never showed up. The hope that the roster could hold the line was propped up with speeches, projected stats, and a lot of faith. But reality has been harsh. The only constant so far has been Max Fried, signed in the offseason with the expectation becoming Cole's ideal partner atop the rotation. Fried has carried a burden that was never meant to be his alone. A burden that, little by little, is threatening the team's real chances of reaching the World Series. Because while Fried delivers, everything around him crumbles. Marcus Stroman, brought in as a complimentary piece, hasn't been able to find consistency. And Carlos Carrasco, once a trusted arm in other franchises, couldn't handle the pressure. He's already been removed from the rotation. And the most striking part of it all, the Yankees never truly replaced Gerrit Cole. They chose to look inward, to rely on in-house solutions. Despite still playing at a high level, baseball, representation has an expiration date, and it's running out. It's in this unstable setting that a name resurfaces, one that brings both hope and doubt. Sandy Alcántara of the Miami Marlins, a name that, in 2022, was synonymous with dominance. National League Cy Young winner, two-time All-Star, a bulldozer on the mound. But today, he represents everything a high-risk gamble can be. R.J. Anderson of CBS Sports recently listed Alcántara as one of the most obvious trade targets on the Yankees' radar. The logic is simple. The trade deadline is approaching. The Marlins are in a rebuilding phase, and Alcántara is slowly working his way back from Tommy John surgery. But that's where things get complicated. In theory, Alcántara has regained his velocity. He's generating ground balls again, but the control hasn't returned. His command is shaky, and his pitches are landing squarely in hitters' barrels. The result? A nightmare 8.04 ERA, worst in the league. 42 earned runs. A terrifying stat line for any pitcher, and for any team even thinking about taking a chance on him. But is that the full story? Because in baseball, context changes everything. Alcántara is pitching for a team that's already waved the white flag. A clubhouse with no perspective, no pressure, but also no purpose. Put that same pitcher in a clubhouse that breathes playoffs, in a stadium where every pitch echoes with crowd anticipation, and everything might change. Maybe that's what the Yankees are seeing. Not a savior, but a piece. A third name in a rotation that, when healthy, could feature Fried, Cole, and Gil. Alcántara, in that picture, would be a luxury. A high-risk insurance policy with potentially massive returns. His contract helps too. 5 years, $56 million. A manageable number for a franchise like the Yankees. A number that, in New York, represents a bet on something bigger. Winning now. Not in 2026. Not in 2027. Now. But every bet has two sides. And the Yankees know that better than anyone. They've seen big names crumble under the bright lights of the Bronx. They've seen players shine quietly in smaller markets and melt down in New York. Would Alcántara be just another one? Or could the Bronx be the perfect stage for his redemption? While Giancarlo Stanton inches closer to his return, trying to prove there's still fire in his swing, the mound continues to cry out for reinforcements. And not just any reinforcements. An impact name. A presence that could swing an October series. Because the Yankees lineup with Judge, Soto, and now maybe Stanton is a nightmare for any opposing pitcher. But if the rotation can't hold, everything collapses. In the end, this decision is a crossroads, a choice that could save or sink an entire season. And now I want to hear from you. Does Sandy Alcántara still deserve the risk? Or should the Yankees target someone else? Or maybe not risk anything at all in 2025? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This conversation is yours, Bronx faithful. And of course, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because in the next episode, we'll be talking about a surprising name from the Yankees rotation who could be traded before the deadline. Someone no one's talking about yet. See you there. Because when it comes to Yankees, every rumor carries the weight of history.